there, fellow bakers and bread enthusiasts alike. I'm Rachel Parker, eagerly stepping into the hosting shoes once again for Breaking Bread. This is episode 3, and we're ready to embark on a thrilling culinary journey into the intriguing sphere of sourdough starter science. Have you ever marveled at the transformational process that happens when you simply leave flour and water on your countertop? From a basic mixture to an active and living ecosystem, ever pondered what really goes behind the creation of a sourdough starter? Well, this episode is all set to decode all of that and much more. So fasten your aprons and let's get started. Naturally, we initiate our exploration from the very beginning. What's involved in the birth of a sourdough starter, you ask? Here's the magical answer, my friends. The moment flour and water culminate in an unassuming bowl on your kitchen counter, you set the stage for some serious microbial magic. Now, from whence these mystical microbes originate? As Vanessa Kimbell from the Sourdough School unravels, these microscopic participators hail from the flour, the air around it, and even the very hands that nurture the mixture. Over time, with your dedicated feedings of fresh flour and water, you're intentionally curating a specialized ecosystem that favors particular strains of yeast and bacteria. Fascinating, right? I think so too. Just as a curious scientist would, let's microscopic ally venture into this teeming sourdough universe. We'll find two main settlers, wild yeast and lactic acid bacteria. The yeast, primarily Saccharomyces cerevisiae and Candida humilis, bring to life those delightful air bubbles in the bread by producing carbon dioxide. On the other hand, bacteria like Lactobacillus sanfrancisensis, Lactobacillus plantarum, and Lactobacillus brevis are the reason why every bite into a sourdough has that characteristic tangy dash. As Maurizio Leo of the Perfect Loaf concisely explains, this ecosystem thrives on a balanced relationship between the yeast and the bacteria, with the former being the leavening agent and the latter contributing to the flavor and warding off harmful bacteria from settling in. But how does all this microbiological tango translate into that delicious sourdough bread, you ask? It's all thanks to the fermentation process. The yeast and bacteria feast on the sugars in the flour, exuding byproducts. Here's where you witness the baking magic. Yeast spews out carbon dioxide and ethanol. Concurrently, bacteria churn out lactic and acetic acids. This very interaction of the byproducts manifests as fermentation. The resulting acidic environment is not just a flavor enhancer, but it also safeguards your starter from spoilage by promoting beneficial microorganisms and discouraging harmful ones. Vanessa Kimbell highlights that properly looked-after starter will maintain a pH between 3.5 and 4.5. Here's the secret recipe for stability and flavor development. Of course, there are several factors that can meddle with the productivity of your starter. Temperature, for instance, is a major player. Warm temperatures hasten fermentation, while cooler ones slow things down. If your starter shows signs of apathy, crank up the feeding frequency, adjust the temperature, or even add a smidgen of whole grain flour to provide additional nutrients. Knowing this fascinating sourdough science can serve you well when you face some common starter issues. If your starter is not rising as it should, it could be due to an imbalance in the yeast-to-bacteria ratio, or the temperature may not be optimal for fermentation. As Maurizio Leo points out, an excessively sour or alcoholic smell from your starter can indicate overproduction of acid that may curtail yeast activity. It's a sign that your starter might need more feedings. As we wrap up today's venture, pat yourselves on the back, bread lovers. We've journeyed together through the microscopic world of sourdough starters. Understanding these fundamental principles can help you troubleshoot and perfect your sourdough baking. But remember, there's always more dough to knead, and there's always more to learn. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for all links to resources and expert articles we've discussed today. In our upcoming episode, we'll reveal the mesmerizing world of ancient grains and their incorporation into baking. Got a topic suggestion for us? Send us your messages and remain tuned. This is your host, Rachel Parker, signing off. Until next time, stay buoyant and continue baking.